children, it's Mrs Fussey here, and I'm going to share with you one of my favourite stories, and this story is going to be our favourite 5 story for this week. Okay, let's have a look at which exciting story I've chosen. I bet if you look at the front cover that some of you might recognise this story already. The title of the story, which is on our front cover, is A Squash and a Squeeze. And this story is written by a very famous author whose name is at the top of the front cover just here, Julia Donaldson. Now, I expect that you might have some of Julia Donaldson's books at home yourself. I know we've certainly got a lot of them at school and we enjoy reading them together. Just at the top of the front cover here on the right hand corner is the name of the illustrator, Axel Scheffler. So he draws some beautiful pictures, some beautiful illustrations for us to enjoy. And on the front cover we can see a little old lady, and she's looking rather puzzled. I think she's looking a little bit confused as to what's going on. And surrounding her we can see some animals that we might recognise. Okay, we can see a goat, a cow, a pig and a hen. Okay, on the back of the book there is some blurb, and in the blurb it says that this is a book that we have to read again and again, and Mrs Fussey thinks so too. I absolutely love this story. So let's begin. Okay, A Squash and a Squeeze. Get myself comfortable. Here we go. A little old lady lived all by herself. Here she is, children, with a table and chairs and a jug on the shelf. Oh, wonder if the little old lady's a little bit lonely. A wise old man heard her grumble and grouse. There's not enough room in my house. Wise old man, won't you help me, please? My house is a squash and a squeeze. So the little old lady is grumbling and grousing. I think that means that she's complaining to the wise old man that there's not enough room in her house. She said it's a squash, it's a squeeze, it's too small. And the wise man is about to give her some advice. Take in your hen, said the wise old man. The old lady thinks about it. Take in my hen? Bring in my hen, she asks him. What a curious plan. Oh, it's a curious, interesting plan. Well, here's the hen look. The hen laid an egg on the fireside rug. That's the rug by the fire. And flapped round the room, knocking over the jug. Oh dear me. The little old lady cried, what shall I do? It was pokey for one, and it's tiny for two. My nose has a tickle, and there's no room to sneeze. My house is a squash and a squeeze. And you can see the old lady here, look, in the picture. She's got her arms up in despair. What shall I do, she says. It was pokey for one and it's tiny for two, now that the hen's come in. My nose has a tickle. There's no room to sneeze. My house is a squash and a squeeze. And she said, wise old man, won't you help me, please? My house is a squash and a squeeze. Now let's see what he suggests next. What is his next idea going to be? Take in your goat, said the wise old man. Take in my goat? What a curious plan. Well, the goat chewed the curtains and trod on the egg, then sat down to nibble the table leg. The little old lady cried, "Glory be! It was tiny for two, and it's titchy for three. The hen pecks the goat, and the goat's got fleas. My house is a squash and a squeeze." And she said, "Wise old man, won't you help me, please? My house is a squash and a squeeze." "Take in your pig," said the wise old man. "Take in my pig? What a curious plan." So she took in her pig, who kept chasing the hen and raiding the larder again and again. So the pig is stealing, he's raiding the larders. That's a huge cupboard in her kitchen. He's eating all of the food. He's chasing the hen and eating the food. He's being a nuisance, children, isn't he? The little old lady cried, "Stop! I implore!" So she's begging, she's imploring. It was titchy for three, and it's teeny for four. Even the pig in the larder agrees, my house is a squash and a squeeze. And she said, "Wise old man, won't you help me, please? My house is a squash and a squeeze." "Take in your cow," said the wise old man. "Take in my cow? What a curious plan." Wow, children, the animals that are coming into the house are getting bigger and bigger, aren't they? Well, the cow took one look and charged straight at the pig, then jumped on the table and tapped out a jig. He's doing a dance on the tabletop, and the old lady's definitely in despair. The little old lady cried, "Heavens alive! It was teeny for four, and it's weeny for five. I'm tearing my hair out. I'm down on my knees. My house is a squash and a squeeze." Well done, children. I bet you joined in there. See if you can join in with me now. And she said, "Wise old man, won't you help me, please? My house is a squash and a squeeze." So, if at the beginning of the story the little old lady was feeling a little bit alone, she's certainly not feeling alone now, children, is she, with all of these animals in her house? So the old man's going to give her some advice now. He's very wise, so he's going to give her some thoughtful decisions. "Take them all out," said the wise old man. "But then I'll be back where I first began." So he said, "Take the animals, all of them, take them all out." Well, she doesn't understand. She said, "But I'll just be back at the beginning." So she opened the window and out flew the hen. That's better. At last I can sneeze again. She shooed. She shooed out the goat and she shoved out the pig. Oh, my house is beginning to feel pretty big. She huffed and she puffed and she pushed out the cow. Oh, just look at my house. It's enormous now. Children, do you think she's feeling like her house is getting bigger? "Thank you, old man, for the work you have done. It was weeny for five. It's gigantic for one. There's no need to grumble and there's no need to grouse. There's plenty of room in my house." And now she's full of frolics and fiddle-de-dees. It isn't a squash and it isn't a squeeze. Yes, she's full of frolics and fiddle-de-dees. It isn't a squash or a squeeze. So children, I want you to think really carefully about that story. What actually changed about the old lady's house? Was her house bigger at the end than the beginning? Think about the wise old man's really curious plan. How did he help the little old lady to feel that her house was gigantic when, at the beginning of the story, she was complaining? Do you remember? She was grumbling and grousing that her house did not have enough room. It was a squash and a squeeze. But at the end of the story, she's full of frolics and fiddle-de-dees because it isn't a squash and it isn't a squeeze. So I want you to think about his curious plan and discuss that with your grown-ups. Now, all the way through our story, we were listening to some really, really exciting vocabulary. And I know in year one we've got some vocabulary boards, haven't we, children, in our classroom? And we like to make a list of interesting words. When we come across them, we write those interesting words down and we put them on our vocabulary boards. And there's so many interesting words in this story, and I thought that I would just choose some that we could have a little discussion about. Okay. So this is an interesting word, isn't it? This word here, a wise old man. Oh, so the author describes the old man as wise. I think that must mean that he's a very thoughtful man and he makes thoughtful decisions. So he gives thoughtful decisions to the old lady, thoughtful choices that help her to make her feel her house is bigger. The little old lady describes the old man's plan as curious. So I think that must mean that she thinks it's a very interesting plan, perhaps a little bit strange because she can't really understand how bringing animals in is going to make her house feel bigger. Now she uses lots of really interesting words to describe small. So she complains that her house is a squash and a squeeze. She uses the word pokey, which I really like that word, pokey, and the word tiny. She also uses the word, on this page, she uses the word titchy. Titchy, so that all mean small, tiny and small. Let's have another look. Titchy and teeny. So when the pig is raiding the larder, she uses the words titchy and teeny. So all of these fantastic words all mean small and tiny. I also really like, now I hope that I can find it, children, now. And the old lady says, glory be, doesn't she? Glory be. She's so surprised at the plan that she uses the expression glory be. Now let Mrs Fussey see if I can find it. Okay, lost it now, children. Here it is. The little old lady cried, glory be. It was tiny for 2 and it's titchy for 3. So she said, oh, goodness me. She said, what an interesting plan. She was so surprised. She also used the word implore. Do you remember we found that word, children? Implore. And she's begging the old man to think of a plan. She says, stop, I implore. Stop this silly plan. Stop asking me to bring animals into the house because it's titchy, it's teeny. The house is still a squash and a squeeze. And at the very end of the story, there's some words that I really like. And I know if we were together that we'd be jumping up off the carpet now and we would be acting this out. Here we are. So the old lady is full of frolics and fiddle-de-dees. So she's doing, it's like a cheerful dance, isn't it? She's frolicking, she's whirling, she's twirling. And they also use the word jig. I think there's an animal that comes in and dances a jig on the table. And that is like a dance look. Here he is, he's tapping out a jig with his hooves on the table. So jigging, frolicking, fiddle-de-dees. She's full of frolics and fiddle-de-dees. She's having a lovely cheerful time, a lively, cheerful time. So, I hope you've enjoyed the story today, children, and I'll be back tomorrow to share the story with you again, and we can talk about it a little bit more. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed that, and maybe you've heard some interesting words that you might want to find out what they mean and talk to your grown-ups about them. Thank you for listening, children. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.